She came home to smiles that felt rehearsed, hugs that lingered a beat too long. The air shimmered with champagne and secrets. Every word, every glance, it wasn't warmth. It was calculation. Then came the moment, one announcement, one fake smile. And a trap hidden in plain sight. But was she the prey? Or had she known all along? Stay close. What happens next will make you question everything you thought you knew about family. The house hadn't changed. Same white columns, same manicured roses by the porch, same wind chimes that used to lull her to sleep as a child. But Ivy Quinn didn't feel nostalgic as she stepped out of the black SUV. She felt observed. Ivy Quinn hadn't been home in almost 10 months. Not really. Sure, there were the obligatory texts on holidays, the occasional voice message from her father, always ending with "your mom misses you," even though it never sounded like he was sure. But standing now in front of the family home in New Orleans, Ivy didn't feel welcomed. She felt summoned. The front door swung open before she could even knock. Well, if it isn't the prodigal daughter," Savannah drawled, her voice syrupy sweet and sharp like glass. Ivy gave her sister a once-over. Blowout hair, lashes too thick, fingers clutched around the latest iPhone like it was part of her bloodstream. Savannah smelled like designer perfume and desperation. "Nice to see you too, Savannah," Ivy said, stepping inside. The scent of lemon polish hit her first, followed by the familiar undertones of expensive candles and her mother's perfume. Karen appeared from the hallway, her silk blouse pristine, her smile carefully measured. "Ivy. You look." Her eyes flicked over the fitted black turtleneck, the high-waisted slacks, the slick ponytail. Very professional. "That's code for severe, right?" Ivy quipped. "Well," Karen replied, lips curving ever so slightly, "it wouldn't hurt to soften up a little. A touch of color never killed anyone." Savannah snorted. "She's allergic to joy, Mom. You know that." Ivy offered a tight-lipped smile. "No, just allergic to unnecessary drama." "So basically, your entire personality," Savannah shot back. Karen clapped her hands gently. "Girls, please. It's been so long since we've all been together. Let's try not to start with claws out." Daniel Quinn emerged from the living room, his voice mild and distant. "Hey, sweetheart." Ivy hugged him briefly. He smelled like old paper and aftershave. Familiar, but distant. He patted her on the back twice, perfunctory. Mechanical. They moved into the dining room, where the table had been set to magazine-level perfection. Silver chargers, crystal glasses, candles in tall glass holders. Ivy sat in her usual spot across from Savannah, already sensing the tension building under the surface like a fault line. Dinner began with small talk, Beckham's new position at a law firm in Charleston, Savannah's influencer deals, Karen's charity gala. Ivy contributed when needed, her responses short but polite. Then, as dessert was being served, creme brulee with lavender whipped cream, Savannah cleared her throat and stood. "Okay, so. I've been dying to share this," she began, tapping her glass with the back of her spoon. "My 33rd birthday is coming up, and I've decided we're doing something unforgettable." Ivy tilted her head. "Unforgettable how?" Savannah's eyes lit up. Champagne wall. Custom gowns. Live music flown in from Austin. A white horse-drawn carriage. Imported orchids. Drone footage from every angle. Think Versailles, but with better lighting. Beckham chuckled softly, sipping his wine. Ivy blinked. "Sounds expensive." Savannah smiled brightly. "That's the fun part. You're covering it." The room went still. Ivy stared at her, her fork mid-air. I'm sorry, what? Savannah leaned one hand on the table, the other gesturing grandly like she was on stage. You own Ivy Secret Plaza. You've got the venues, the vendors, the magic. Why not make my party the talk of the city? Think of the exposure. It's practically business development. Ivy slowly put her fork down. So you're asking me to sponsor your birthday? No, Savannah said sweetly, I'm telling you. You're my sister. This is what family does. Ivy's eyes flicked to her mother. Surely, you don't expect me to. Karen raised her hand. Ivy, let's not make this a big deal. You've been so fortunate in your career. This is just giving a little back. Supporting your sister on an important day. A $200,000 day, Ivy muttered. Daniel cleared his throat, shifted uncomfortably. He didn't look up. Karen continued, her voice gentle but firm. Savannah's been under a lot of stress. She's planning a wedding, dealing with public pressure. This party will give her some joy. And what do I get? Ivy asked, her tone even, sharp as a blade. Besides a massive invoice and fake gratitude. Savannah rolled her eyes. God, Abby, not everything is some corporate transaction. You're so obsessed with control it's honestly sad. Ivy stood, slowly. Her chair barely made a sound. You know what's actually sad? She said quietly. Being used like an ATM, because people mistake silence for permission. She paused, eyes locking with her mother's. But don't worry. I won't ruin the mood. A smile curved her lips, calm, eerie. Of course I'll pay. Anything for family. She left the table with the same measured steps she came in with. Controlled. Untouched. But something behind her eyes had shifted. A fuse had been lit. And no one at that table realized. The countdown had already begun. It started with a subject line she almost skipped. Invoice attached Monroe event final draft. Ivy sat alone in her office at Ivy Secret Plaza's flagship location. The room was sleek, minimalist, just the way she liked it. Concrete walls, matte black finishes, glass shelves holding delicate trophies and framed press clippings. It was her world, her sanctuary. And someone had just broken in. She opened the email, brows furrowed, expecting a draft from her logistics team. But this wasn't from anyone she knew. It was sent from a freelance planner in Baton Rouge, someone her company had never worked with directly. She clicked the PDF. Her breath caught. The document looked official, letterhead, legal formatting, signature lines. It was a contract to host an exclusive, full-service event at Ivy Secret Plaza. Savannah's birthday party. Every detail matched what Savannah had bragged about at dinner: imported flowers, drone filming, even the damn horses. But what made Ivy's blood run cold was one line near the bottom. Financial guarantor, Ms. Ivy Quinn, CEO of Ivy Secret Plaza. She leaned back slowly, her hand still on the mouse. Her jaw tightened. She forged me. No. That was too sloppy for Savannah. She wouldn't have the brains to doctor a contract. But she would pressure someone else to do it. Someone desperate for her approval, or money. Or both. Ivy picked up her phone and dialed. Aina. My office. Now. 2 minutes later, Aina Rodriguez, sharp-eyed, no-nonsense, loyal to a fault, stepped inside with a clipboard still in her hands. What's wrong? Ivy turned the screen toward her without a word. Aina read. Then again, slower. Her expression darkened. She didn't. Oh, she did, Ivy said flatly. And she used someone outside our internal team, so I wouldn't catch it during routing. But she made one mistake. Aina raised a brow. Which is? I check everything with my name on it. Silence. Then Aina leaned closer. Do you want me to kill the contract? Ivy shook her head, slowly. Not yet. Aina blinked. You're going to let it go through. Ivy stood, walking to the floor-to-ceiling window behind her. Outside, the garden was being prepped for a spring wedding. Staff moved like clockwork. Everything worked because she made it so. I want to see how far she's willing to go, Ivy murmured. She turned back to Aina. But we document everything. I want copies of internal emails, vendor confirmations, and any communication that came through her or Beckham's side. And if she steps foot on our property again, I want security footage. You think she'll screw up? She always does. Ivy sat down again, this time with a calm that felt like steel cooling in ice. Let her throw her perfect little party. Her voice dropped, steady, sharp. Let her build her own gallows. The next morning, Aina walked into Ivy's office with a tablet in one hand and 2 flash drives in the other. She didn't need to say anything. Ivy just nodded, and Aina locked the door behind her. You're not going to like any of this, Aina said, sliding into the seat across from her. I already don't, Ivy replied. Show me. Aina tapped the screen. The footage came up, security cam, side hallway, time stamped from 3 days ago. Savannah stood in front of the floral design team, heels clicking impatiently against the marble floor. No, no, no. I said, cascading. This looks like a funeral arrangement at a rich aunt's 3rd wedding. A florist, a young woman with trembling hands, tried to explain. Ms. Quinn, that style. It's Mrs. Monroe to be, thank you very much. And maybe if you people had an ounce of taste, I wouldn't have to micromanage every damn petal. Ivy didn't flinch, but Aina heard the slight crack in her breathing. She clicked to the next video, Savannah berating a server for offering her sparkling water instead of still. Are you trying to make me look bloated on camera? Do I look like I drink carbonation? Next slide, emails. One from Savannah to a vendor, signed with Ivy's name and digital signature. Please process full payment to reserve the horse-drawn carriage. Funds will be wired directly. A. Quinn. Aina muttered, that signature was pulled from the old event package templates. The ones you stopped using last year. So she dug through archives, Ivy said softly. Her fingers drummed against the arm of her chair. That's effort. And recklessness. There's more, Aina said, opening a file folder with a dozen attachments. Here are at least 6 invoices being sent directly to our accounting department, none of which were approved through the internal procurement system. I traced all of them to Savannah's personal assistant. Same handwriting on each. Ivy didn't answer right away. She walked toward the shelves, running her fingers lightly over the edges of a silver award. Her face was unreadable, but her silence was thunder. Aina waited, then asked quietly, You think she's trying to make you the legal fall guy? Ivy turned, her voice level. If any payment bounces, the vendors sue the venue. The venue is me. And if you cancel now, you look petty and controlling. Exactly, Ivy nodded. She's betting on me staying quiet. On me caring too much about image to call her out. She walked back to her desk, sat down, and leaned forward. But what she doesn't realize is I don't need to scream to win. Aina grinned. So what's the next move? We let her keep going, Ivy said, eyes glinting like cut glass. And when the music stops, I'll be the only one still standing. It was a quiet Thursday afternoon when Ivy decided to stop watching and start digging. Her office lights were dimmed, curtains half drawn. Outside, the city moved like always, unaware that the cracks in a legacy were about to be exposed. She sat at her desk with Aina beside her, 2 laptops open, multiple files scattered like puzzle pieces waiting to be snapped into place. "Start with her cards," Ivy said, eyes fixed ahead. "If she's really spending what she's pretending, it'll show." Aina nodded, already typing. It didn't take long. Within 15 minutes, 3 credit card statements came up. All maxed. All late. One had been declined at least twice this month, once at a high-end jewelry store, another at a boutique hotel in Charleston. $36,000 on a Chase Sapphire Reserve, Aina read. 15 on Amex, and nearly 22 on her Platinum Travel. Minimum payments only. She's treading water. Ivy remained silent, lips pressed into a thin line. "There's more," Aina continued. "Peer-to-peer loans. Small amounts at first, 500 here, 1,000 there. But she's tapped over 10 different platforms. Mostly high interest, short term." Ivy's eyes narrowed. "Predatory lenders." "Yep. She's desperate enough not to care." Then came the names, familiar ones. Venmo transfers from old college friends. "Just until Friday. You're the best, I swear I'll pay it back." Messages wrapped in fake warmth and nervous emojis. "She's borrowed from people she hasn't spoken to in years," Aina said. "This isn't just a spending problem. It's a spiral." Ivy leaned back in her chair, her mind moving faster than her pulse. She was trained for crisis. But not like this. Not when the crisis had her last name. And then came the final blow. A flagged email, forwarded from one of Aina's sources inside a wedding consulting firm. FYI, Monroe family has started informal inquiries into Savannah's background. Finance red flags. Keep all invoices transparent moving forward. Ivy stared at the screen. The lines swam in front of her. The Monroes were digging. They were already suspicious. And the party. The ridiculous, over-the-top $200,000 spectacle. It wasn't about celebration. It was camouflage. A desperate, sparkling distraction to convince Charleston's most powerful family that Savannah Quinn was still their equal. Still rich. Still polished. Still worthy. And Ivy was being used to fund the illusion. Her jaw clenched. Then came the choice, stark and cold. Expose Savannah. Tell Beckham. Tell Eloan and Winston. Show them the debts, the loans, the lies. And the engagement. Over. The fallout. Spectacular. Or say nothing. Protect the Quinn name. Protect Ivy's secret plans from scandal. Let the lie float a little longer, like a fragile balloon above a room full of pins. Ivy didn't speak for a long time. Aina finally broke the silence. "So, what now?" Ivy turned, voice calm but hollow. "We don't say a word." Aina blinked. "Seriously? Let her throw the party. Let her play queen. Why?" Ivy looked out the window, her reflection clear in the glass. "Because the thing about lies, Aina," she said softly. "They always unravel better when no one touches them." She stood up, picked up the folder, and tucked it into her desk drawer. "Savannah doesn't need my help to ruin herself." And for the first time in weeks, Ivy felt something she hadn't in a long time. Power. Not the kind you wield. The kind you withhold. The chandeliers sparkled like frozen fireworks above the grand ballroom of Ivy's secret plaza. Hundreds of votive candles flickered in glass towers. Imported orchids curved across the ceiling like blooming veins. A champagne wall gleamed beside a white marble fountain, where a violinist played Vivaldi under soft, golden light. In the far corner, a drone hovered silently, capturing sweeping aerial shots of guests in black tie elegance. To anyone watching, this wasn't just a party. It was a coronation. And Savannah Quinn. She was the queen. "Everything looks like a dream," someone whispered, holding up their phone to record the custom monogrammed horse-drawn carriage waiting outside. Savannah stood at the center of it all, glowing, radiant, and drowning in layers of tulle. Her dress, a glittering couture gown custom made in Milan, trailed across the floor like stardust. Guests surrounded her, clinking glasses, complimenting her taste, her beauty, her vision. And every time someone said you outdid yourself, she just smiled and tilted her head. "You know me. I never do small." Across the room, Ivy watched silently from the mezzanine. She wore a black satin gown with a structured shoulder, tailored to perfection, simple, elegant, and utterly powerful. Aina stood beside her, phone in hand, ready but unreadable. "She really thinks she pulled it off," Aina muttered. Ivy said nothing. But her silence, again, was everything. Down below, near the champagne wall, Eloane Monroe moved through the crowd like a shadow in pearls. Quiet, graceful, composed. Her gaze scanned the room without urgency, yet nothing escaped her. She approached Savannah with a soft smile. "Savannah, dear," Eloane said, her voice smooth as silk. "You must be exhausted. This is quite the event." Savannah's laugh was practiced. "Oh, you know me. I live for this kind of stress." Eloane replied, eyes moving over the decor. "I was just telling Winston, the venue is spectacular. Isn't it?" Savannah beamed. "It's exclusive. Impossible to book unless you know someone." Eloane tilted her head. Then, almost as an afterthought, she asked, "Savannah, who owns Ivy Secret Plaza?" Savannah blinked. Just once. Then again. "Oh, she laughed too brightly. "It's a friend. Someone with connections." There was a beat of silence. Tiny. Deadly. Eloane's smile didn't change. But her eyes, they sharpened. "A friend with connections," she repeated softly. Savannah nodded, too quickly. "Yes. Very private. The kind of person who avoids the spotlight. You know the type." "Oh, I do," Eloane murmured. Her gaze flicked across the room, upward. To the mezzanine. To Ivy. And just like that, the stage lights flickered, not from electricity, but from truth. Ivy stepped forward. The music softened. The drone, mid-flight, paused with a gentle mechanical hum. And all eyes turned, not because of an announcement, or fanfare, or spotlight, but because Ivy Quinn was walking down the mezzanine steps like she had always belonged at the center of the room. The satin of her black gown caught the light like still water. Her hair was pinned into a low chignon. No sparkle, no shimmer, just confidence so sharp it glinted. Savannah froze. Her champagne glass tilted in her hand, but she didn't move. Couldn't. Ivy didn't rush. Each step measured, quiet. She passed the wall of cameras, influencers, Monroe relatives, and Charleston elites, but her gaze was fixed on one person. Eloane Monroe. Ivy reached the bottom of the staircase and stopped in the center of the marble floor, just beneath the chandelier. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. "Welcome to Ivy Secret Plaza," she said, voice smooth, sure, and impossible to ignore. "I'm Ivy Quinn. Founder, sole owner, and creative director." A silence fell over the ballroom like velvet. Chairs stopped shifting. Forks froze mid-air. Even the music had the decency to die. Savannah let out a choked laugh, brittle and hollow. Abby. Stop. You're not, this isn't the... Ivy didn't look at her. She looked straight at Eloan. I apologize for the confusion. We normally prefer full transparency, especially with esteemed guests like the Monroe family. Eloan's lips curved into a small, measured smile. No apology needed. She took a step forward. Her heels clicked softly against the marble. It's a pleasure to finally meet the woman who builds with bricks. Not just lights and mirrors. There was something in her tone, quiet admiration, laced with subtle steel. It cut through the room with more weight than a scream ever could. Savannah's face drained of color. Her hands trembled slightly, and Beckham reached out, not to hold her, but to still the glass before it shattered on the floor. He didn't say a word. But then his eyes lifted, slowly, deliberately. To Ivy. And for the first time all night, maybe the first time ever, he really saw her. Not as the awkward younger sister. Not as background noise to Savannah's curated life. But as a force. A woman of stature. Presence. Power. His lips parted, as if to speak, but no words came. And in that silence, Ivy simply smiled. A small, almost imperceptible smile. Not cruel. Not triumphant. Just finished. She turned to the nearest guest and said politely, "Please, enjoy the evening. The champagne is from Reims. The flowers are Dutch, and the marble under your feet. Italian. Authenticity always leaves an impression." Then she turned and walked away, not waiting for applause, not expecting it. And still, somehow, it followed her anyway. The party ended without anyone saying it had. No announcement. No chaos. No dramatic exit. Just silence. One by one, the guests trickled out. Laughter dimmed to polite nods. The live quartet faded into pre-recorded ambient music. The champagne flutes remained half full, untouched. Even the drone, once buzzing overhead, now sat idle on the polished bar like a forgotten toy. Savannah stood by the ice sculpture centerpiece, clutching a napkin between her fingers like it was a lifeline. Beckham was a few feet away, hands in his pockets, shoulders too still. She turned to him, voice barely above a whisper. "Say something." He looked at her. Not in anger. Not in pity. Just finality. "What do you want me to say?" he asked softly. "That you understand," she replied quickly. "That you get why I did it. That you see I was just trying to protect us." Beckham didn't move. His jaw tightened, but his eyes remained calm. "You weren't protecting us." She blinked. "You were protecting your version of you." He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Because every word landed like a door quietly locking shut. "You could have told me the truth. You could have told my parents. You could have been honest about where you stand." Savannah stepped forward, reaching for his arm. "I am standing." He pulled back gently. Not harsh. Just enough. "No, Savannah. You've been performing." There was a pause. He looked around at the remnants of her fantasy, the flowers wilting under the lights, the silver heels discarded by the wall, the empty photo booth where no one had smiled without rehearsing. "And I've been your stage." A quiet breath escaped her lips. She looked past him, to the stairs, to where Ivy had disappeared an hour earlier without another word. "This isn't fair," she whispered. "She humiliated me." Beckham tilted his head. "No. She just told the truth. You're the one who turned it into humiliation." Then, without fanfare, without final words, he stepped away. And Savannah watched the man she had spent 3 years curating her life around walk straight through the front doors of her own illusion. No anger. No drama. Just the kind of silence you never come back from. The morning after the party, Ivy didn't expect a phone call. And she certainly didn't expect a visit. But she got neither. Instead, her phone buzzed once. A message from her father. "Daniel Quinn. Don't push this too far. It was still your sister's birthday." She stared at the screen, blank-faced. Not "how are you?" Not "we didn't know." Not even "I'm sorry this happened." Just a caution. A request for silence. A reminder that in this family, appearances were worth more than acknowledgement. She placed the phone on the counter without replying. But 5 minutes later, as if driven by something deep and steady, she picked it back up and called him. He answered after the 3rd ring. "Ivy." His voice was the same, calm, measured, like he was discussing stocks or traffic. "Dad," she said evenly. "Look, I know last night was messy. But maybe we can all just not let it escalate. You know how your mother is about family image. And Savannah's already upset enough." She let the silence stretch. "I'm not escalating anything," she said finally. "Well, then. I'm just not letting myself be dragged anymore." Daniel didn't answer right away. She could hear him exhale through his nose. "You're her sister," he said eventually, as if that explained everything. "Family's complicated." Ivy's eyes narrowed slightly. Her voice dropped, calm, but solid as stone. "Family's only complicated when one person keeps bleeding so the others can stay clean." He was silent again. She could picture him, sitting at the edge of the bed, staring at the floor, wanting this conversation to be over. "I know you don't like conflict," Ivy continued, "but avoiding it doesn't make you neutral. It just makes you absent." "Ivy." "I'm not asking you to take sides," she interrupted. "I'm just finally choosing mine." Click. She hung up. There were no slammed doors. No screaming matches. No dramatic family breakdowns. Just a quiet moment where, for the first time in her life, Ivy didn't explain herself. Didn't shrink. Didn't stay. 2 weeks later, Ivy stepped into her main office at Ivy Secret Plaza to find Aina grinning at her desk like she'd just won the lottery. "You're going to want to see this," Aina said, tapping her inbox. Ivy raised a brow. "Another request for a press interview." "Better." Aina turned the screen toward her. 10 new inquiries. All marked priority. All from Charleston. One from a cousin of Winston Monroe, requesting a high-end anniversary event. Another from Eloan's personal assistant, inquiring about a spring gala. 2 more for engagement parties, private, discreet, no influencers allowed, and another from a charity board in Savannah's old circle, now suddenly very interested in female-led luxury venues. Ivy read them without reacting at first. Then, slowly, her lips curved. "Did they say how they heard about us?" Aina smirked. "Let's just say, word spreads fast. Especially among people who know the difference between gold and gold paint." Ivy laughed softly, shaking her head. Not with arrogance, but with a quiet clarity. A sense of space opening where pressure used to live. She walked over to the window. Outside, a new setup was being built for a wedding reception, fresh ivy winding up white columns, tables draped in silk, the staff moving like a well-rehearsed orchestra. It was beautiful. But more than that, it was hers. Her phone buzzed once in her pocket. A single notification. From her father. She hesitated. Then opened it. Daniel Quinn. You were right. I'm sorry. Dad. She stared at the message. There was no but. No soft excuse. No quiet request for peace at the cost of silence. Just 7 words. 7 words that came years too late, but for once, they stood alone. She didn't reply. Instead, she placed the phone on her desk, took one last look, and hit delete. She didn't need to archive it. Didn't need to hold onto it as proof. She wasn't waiting for validation anymore. She wasn't surviving anyone's story but her own. And for the first time, the silence didn't hurt. It felt like freedom. They said she was cold. Distant. Too quiet. Too composed. They never saw what it cost to stay that way. They never saw what it meant to walk into a room full of people who called themselves family and still feel like a stranger. To be used as a ladder, a shield, a bank, and still smile because silence was safer than confrontation. But she knew now. Silence doesn't mean surrender. It can be armor. It can be power. And for the first time, Ivy wasn't silent because she was afraid. She was silent because she had nothing left to prove. I don't need to win by shouting. I win by standing still and standing strong. Family isn't a place you pay to stay. Real family doesn't ask you to be quiet when you're hurting. I didn't walk away because I was angry. I walked away because, finally, I knew I was worth more. And she was. She is.